All right. Good evening to everyone who is joining us from India. Good afternoon to all our Middle Eastern and European folks, along with the African folks who have joined us today. And good morning to everyone who is joining us from the West. We are live right now, and I can see many of you all who have started streaming in with us on YouTube. And for those of you all who have joined us on this meeting today, can you let me know which city are you dialing in from right now? Which city are you connecting today? If you can put it up on the chat. All right, we have Renu who is joining us from Sydney, couple of folks from Noida in the Delhi NCR region, people from Hyderabad, Kolkata, Pune, Ghana, Addis Ababa from Ethiopia, from Mumbai, from Samastipur, Bihar, and people from across the lengths and breadths of the country as well as from overseas. We welcome everyone to the session today. I am Moin Naik and I am representing Seed Global Education today. We are a higher education firm based out in the United Kingdom, and we help high potential students like yourself in making their dreams of studying either an MBA, a business master's, or a STEM master's in top global universities a reality. And today we have an interactive panel discussion on careers in analytics in the United States of America. And this session today is brought to you by University of Minnesota Carlson School of Management. Founded in 1919, University of Minnesota's Carlson School of Management is a leading business school located in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Known for its innovative approach to business education, Carlson offers a wide range of undergraduate, graduate, and executive programs. Carlson is highly regarded for its emphasis on experiential learning and its strong connection to the business community. Its top employers include major companies such as 3M, Target, General Mills, Deloitte, PwC, United Health Group, and Cargill. Today, in this session, you would be getting an opportunity to meet recruiters from top companies that have hired and partnered with Carlson School's MS in Business Analytics graduates. You will be getting an option today to ask them questions about the current analytics job market and how can you best prepare for your career in analytics. We would be learning more about insights into the analytics job market, recruiters' perspective, understanding company expectations, and career preparation tips. Before we go ahead, I had a short poll for everyone who has joined us today, and we have about 200 folks who have dialed in today, and I would be launching a quick poll right now, and here it is on your screens. So what do you think using analytical tools have helped businesses become more efficient? Currently, do you think is it actually helping out or it's not helping out different businesses across the globe, or are you unsure about it? All right, we would be waiting for another 15 seconds before we close this poll. Last 5 seconds. All right. And here are the results. So a majority of y'all, 94% of y'all think that analytical tools such as Power BI, Tableau, Spotfire, etc., have helped businesses becoming more efficient with different ways of reporting, dashboarding, etc. All right. Moving on, introducing the eminent dignitary list who are joining us today from various parts of United States. First up, we have Mr. Garth Herbert, who is the Associate Director of Recruiting at the Carlson School of Management, University of Minnesota. He has spent his career in higher education, assisting students at all points in their journey, and has recently moved into the Carlson School graduate admissions team. Along with Garth, we also have Brian Mogren, who is joining us. He's Associate Director of Business Development at Carlson School of Management and is an experienced business development professional with a focus on higher education and strategic partnerships. We also have with us Susan Horn, who is the Senior Director of Admissions and Recruiting for the MBA and Master's program at the Carlson School of Management, University of Minnesota. Introducing the panel who have joined us today. We have Parijit Banerjee, who is the Global Head of Financial Services at Latent View Analytics. He's a seasoned business leader with a proven track record of successfully helping Fortune organizations transform themselves. Along with Parijat, we have Jackie Hull, who is a senior technical recruiter at Amazon. She is a highly experienced senior recruiter with a strong track record of 10 plus years in the tech recruitment space. Currently, she serves as a senior full life cycle recruiter for Amazon's business and corporate development teams. And finally, we also have with us Mr. Abe Western. He's an associate principal at Google and is an accomplished technology leader with over 10 years of experience in driving complex technical initiatives and enhancing fraud detection systems. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. With this, I would like to hand over the floor to Garth to proceed ahead with the session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Moin, for that introduction. So I'm just going to briefly describe our MSBA program here today. So when we're talking about business analytics, and the panelists are going to be talking about the world of analytics and technology. And so I wanted to just briefly highlight the program we have here, the graduate program we have here at the Carlson School of Management that could really help you achieve those career goals in these various fields. So our MSBA program is a one-year intensive graduate program. It's cohort-based, full-time, in-person, STEM designated. And the goal of this program is to really combine the deep technical skills within data analytics with business acumen, learning how to actually find business insights in the data and apply those insights. So this program is mainly aimed at early career professionals. But that being said, you could see our class profile up on the screen here. We have a wide variety of students from a wide variety of backgrounds. Of course, the students that tend to be most competitive for our program tend to come from more technical backgrounds, have more technical majors. But that being said, we have admitted students from all different majors, all different backgrounds. A couple other important things to note with this program. It is a 12-month program. It starts in the fall of every year. Our application for fall 2025 is currently open. Our next application deadline is January 15th, which I'll be highlighting in the next slide here. Again, this program is STEM designated. So any international students logging in today that are interested in those additional years of OPT time, this is a STEM designated program. You can also see some of the impressive salary numbers we have from our students. And I think we're just going to be talking about how relevant and important the data analytics work is and how sought after this kind of talent is in the marketplace. The last thing I'll point out here on this slide is we are currently offering scholarships through Seed Global. We're going to be posting a link for that here during the session. So I'd encourage you all to look at those, and great opportunity to get some amazing scholarships for this program. Few quick notes about the application itself. We do have prerequisites for calculus and programming for this program. There are several ways to fulfill those prerequisites. If you ever have any questions about those, you can feel free to reach out to me directly. Happy to start a dialogue and see if you qualify to have those fulfilled. The GMAT or GRE is optional for this program if you have at least a cumulative GPA of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. And then also on the left there, you can see we have our upcoming deadlines. Again, the round 2 deadline is January 15th. If you apply by January 15th, your application fee will be waived. And if you're admitted from the round 2 applicant pool, you're guaranteed a scholarship from our program. And the last thing I want to highlight about our program as we sort of transition into the panel is you're really in this program are learning the cutting edge technology, all the new tools from AI to machine learning. And it's just, these are such important skills that are relevant to all different kinds of industries and companies in the industry today. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back to Moin.
All right. Thank you so much, Garth, for such an amazing presentation. Moving forward, the moment for which everyone has been waiting forward to hear from the industry leaders who have joined us today. For the panel discussion, I would like to invite Brian to take forward the session.
Great, thank you. And thank you everyone for being here today. I am happy to be chatting with some of my recruiting partners here this morning to talk a little bit more about the analytics industry and what opportunities might be available, as well as what they look for in potential talent, and maybe a little bit of how they partner and work with the Carlson School and what they like about the Carlson program as well. We can do a little bit of that spin towards the end. So first, I want to thank you all for being here. I know that Moyne did a great job doing an introduction, but wonder if maybe you could just take a quick second and again, just tell them who you are. Maybe one thing that you're currently focused on right now in your work, or maybe something that Moyne wasn't didn't touch on as we go. And Abe, you're kind of top, and so maybe I'll start with you.
So I work for Google, and I work in anti-fraud. That's the domain I focus on. Is people try to fraud Google, and we try to stop them. So that's always kind of on my mind about using data analytics to solve those problems. I also have had the opportunity to work with this university on what we call roundtables. So if you were to attend this university, you would be able to be in breakout rooms with industry professionals in analytics throughout the year. And so those are the two things that I think about when I on a daily basis, really.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks, Abe. Jackie, great to see you. Hope everything is going well. Why don't you give us a little bit of information about yourself and what are you working on now in your current role?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am, my name is Jackie. I'm a senior recruiter for Amazon. The last couple of years, I've been supporting Amazon's business and corporate development, full-time hiring. However, prior, I first engaged with the MS Business Analytics program at Carlson to do a couple of hiring events, because the type of work that students learn and are immersed in this program are very relevant to Amazon, and specifically because Amazon loves working with data. So in the past, I've had opportunity to come and speak to the different classes, talk about interviewing and going through the process to join Amazon. I am based in the United States, and the majority of the roles I support are also in the United States. I don't officially support university recruiting programs, but I have, as a passionate supporter of this program, I've had a lot of success hiring people that graduate from this program. So yeah,
awesome.
Happy to be here.
Jackie. Awesome, appreciate it. Perjit, why don't you round us out?
Sure. Thanks, Brian. And, welcome to everyone who's joined in for today. My name is Parajat. I've been in the data industry for more than 2 decades, when data was not sexy at all. And I think, currently I lead financial services overall as a business head, but I've been across multiple domains, mostly in the data space. Brian has been a great partner, and I think we've been aligned with Carlson as part of a program that I run called the Innovations Lab, which is primarily a liaison between our organization and universities. And I think we've had amazing success with some of the folks from Carlson who've joined us as data analysts and scientists. So we can talk more on that, but it's been a great experience.
Great, thank you. And why don't we stay with you right now? And I'd love to talk a little bit about the Innovation Lab and maybe how your company supports career growth, development, or your team, and kind of how that program works at Leighton View.
Sure. So before I do that, from a perspective of Leighton View, it's a pure play analytics organization. And the way to look at that is, we have the industry domains like financial services and CPG, retail and technology. And then you have the horizontals, which is the engineering and the data science and the visualization and all of that. And the program we have as Innovations Lab is primarily focused on the growth between the organization itself and universities, and how does that run to get students as part of the program and eventually build them a much more broader career set. That means, folks join us as data analysts into the program, and then you get a chance to work across, an entire boot camp, which helps you train and learn industry tactics. All the way from consulting to individual domain specific work, based on which you would get aligned, whether you have a penchant for engineering or science or visualization or any of that. The creation of the a strong talent pool that helps us to drive our business. And I think the work that we've done with Carlson has been very helpful in that manner. Again, the advantage that a lot of the students get as they come in is we help them play across multiple domains, and that gives them some sense of what to work across as they go ahead. So I think, Brian, it's been a wonderful experience to keep doing that. What we also have seen is a lot of the students keep changing a track, which we help them allow to do that. Somebody thinks they want to be a data scientist, but over time they realize they're really good at visualization, and that's where they want to go and focus and run with, and we help them do that.
Great, thank you. Jackie, how about you? How does Amazon help support career growth? Hopefully for analytics leaders as you go through. But what do you see in terms of onboarding, getting people on board, ready to go, and then supporting them as they grow through their career at Amazon?
I was actually just looking up some information about this.
Sure.
Amazon overall is a company that if you're interested in growing your career, you absolutely have the opportunity to do that. It's not, there isn't necessarily a set specific process for everyone, but a lot of the people that I've hired, just as an example, this is what I was looking at from this program over the years, started out at Amazon. We refer to it as business intelligence. So it's similar to some of the things that Parajit was talking about. We have a lot of focus on data and analytics, and people often come in a certain role, learn everything they can, and then take the opportunity to continue to grow in that role or transition to another role. So for example, back in, I think it was 2018, Brian, in 2017, maybe, when we first did this, we hired a variety of people into a business intelligence engineer job family, which is very common at Amazon. Again, working with data, doing a lot of visualization, analytics, problem solving. Some of the people that I hired, many of them are still here, and some of them, I think all of them are still here actually, but many of them moved into data scientist roles or even data engineering or software engineering. So again, it's very technical. I think that, again, Amazon, like most companies, will set people up with mentors and a variety of resources to give you hands-on experience once you get here, and then reward you for your performance. So yeah.
Great. Abe, anything to add to that? Any specific support or anything that comes to mind when you talk about helping kind of nurture a data scientist or an analytics professional through a career at Google?
Well, one thing I want to make clear is that I do work for Google, but I'm not really here on behalf of Google, and I'm not involved in the recruiting part. I would say that Google and any great company that you can work for, there's kind of one part of it is you own your career, so you need to make that grow and should not depend on a company to do that. However, there are things in companies that facilitate that. So things you should look out for when you work for a company. One of the big ones is that how easy is it to move between positions or teams or organizations within a company? That's a big indicator of the company. So, there ideally would have some kind of rule, like if you've been on a team for a year, then you should easily be able to move to another team if there's a position available that you're qualified for, and that there shouldn't be any retribution. In fact, they should help you do that and wouldn't be like, okay, well, it looks like you're looking for some other job, so you're out. If you can't get that job soon, you're going to get out of here. So that's a big one for career growth. I think what's also important is what was mentioned about domain expertise. That's something that often can be overlooked by universities. I think that University of Minnesota does a great job, as was previously mentioned. Domain is very, very, very important in your career, and so you should focus as much energy on domain and as you should on these. I think Parajit said, well, I just think of it as your technical things. Sure. They're all technical, but for example, coding, math, statistics, things like that. That's one side of it. The other one is where you're going to apply these things, and in your career, you should be focusing on both. And so you're looking for a university that will allow you to do that. I see that Minnesota does that, and then throughout your career, you should continue to do that. As you pick a domain, it would be like, I don't know, like I went into anti-fraud. You could go into retail. You could go into many different things for analytics, sports analytics, things like that. Gaming. The longer you can stay in that domain, the longer, the better your career will be, and the more useful you are.
Perfect. Thank you. And maybe Abe, we can stay with you. One thing that I'd like to know is what does an applicant, what does a new graduate, a student that you're working with or applying to a job, what do you look for? How can they stand out from, you probably see a ton of applicants if there's a role that requires, recent graduate would jump in. What's kind of some of the things that you would look for that can help separate those students or new hires from others?
Okay. Well,
and I know you said you don't directly do it, hiring, but if you're bringing a group to the table and you're as part of that interview process or somebody to join your team, is there anything specific you're looking for from applicant 1 to 2 to 3?
Sure. Well, one thing is the way you're going to talk about yourself, or if you're going to write up a profile, something automatically that would screen you out, I would say, or make you interesting, either which way, is that, I see some people, let's say they're going to write up a profile and submit it. It'll be something like, I'm really smart because I do smart things and stuff like that. That isn't going to that doesn't matter. So you're not saying anything. So one thing you have to really talk about, challenges you've been through and how you've overcome them, through analytics or through other things, or problems as you've been on a team that you've faced, your team's faced. So you need to be specific about what you've done and make it, really make a story out of things. So that's something that, from the get-go, before you even meet somebody at a company, you need to make sure you get really good at that. If we were to meet, you'd want to be able to show that, you're an interesting person. You're fun to talk to. Think about it like you'd want to be somebody that I'd want to have lunch with, because you're going to be on my team, so we'd have lunch together. So that's one side of it that you need to be able to demonstrate. And the other side is that you want to be able to be curious. So this should think of if we were going to have if you're going to go in and I was going to talk to you about some position or something, you'd want to be able to look at that and say, and make it so there'd be a really good meeting. So, you'd be curious about what the team does, and how your role would be there. And then even ask questions to find out, the problems we're trying to solve, and then want to talk through these problems and things like that.
Sure.
We should both come out of there and feel really good about the conversation.
Try to have more conversational instead of feeling like you're being grilled with a ton of questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Jackie, you might have an interesting perspective, obviously, with your current role. So what do you look for? How do students from this program, however they traditionally kind of separated themselves from maybe students from other schools, or things of that nature?
Yeah, I think that within large companies like Amazon, there are a couple of different kinds of recruiting that happen. There are people who focus on more experienced hires. And then we do have a university recruiting. It's called Amazon University Talent Acquisition. When you're going through if you have less than 3 years of experience, the only opportunities usually that you could be considered for is something that's more through this university talent acquisition team. But one thing I always tell people is try to get some experience. Volunteering is not what I'm talking about, but doing an internship or actually going and getting a position and then joining school. I find that it's not so much how many years of experience, but what you are able to learn and master. And specifically when you're talking about what Abe was saying about communicating with people and knowing, technology and all these different things. I personally find that someone who's taken the time to actually do internships or get work experience and then get their degree, their master's degree, are more easier for me to hire, if you will. It's a little bit, versus the university recruiting thing. So I think that's important. I think when somebody has never worked anywhere for very long and just goes to school, that's okay too. There just aren't as many opportunities right now, in my experience. People want someone that has actually done some work. So
Maybe hit the ground running as they go.
Yeah.
Parijit, what about you? What are anything to add, in terms of how a student would separate themselves, how somebody that, when you're looking at latent view, is that something that, you look at comparing applicants?
Yes, I'm going to borrow from what Jackie mentioned. One part is having an experience helps. So it gives you some runway in the process so that it becomes much easier, even for boot camp. So my experience is and again, there are, it's not a bell curve, but you would still have students who've come with absolute zero experience and done amazingly well. But mostly, if you look at the bell curve, if people have experience, at least in data, it makes more sense for them to quickly pick up use cases and start working in projects and stuff and all of that.
Sure.
But that said, as I initially mentioned, it's extremely important for growth for you to pick, and Abe mentioned that again, to pick a domain, right? Data is only as good as the context you want to work with. And if you really don't understand the context, it becomes difficult. So knowing one particular domain, I mean, it can be financial services, it can be retail, and in that itself, there are many, many subdomains that you can work with. But pick one that you can be really good at, and then eventually you can spread yourself to other places. There are people who worked across multiple industries. They know how to sew the data place to place, or they've worked in a singular particular structure and they really know that. Somebody who's good in risk management is just good in risk management, right? And has done amazing work in PD, LGD, EAD kind of work. So I think that's important. I always believe convenience and conviction never shared the same zip code. So it is needed for you to play that out. And I've seen some of the students from Carlson do a good role there. So.
Sure. Well, we've kind of talked some soft skills, communication skills, being conversational, and then selecting domain, being able to be an expert in specific areas, help kind of be able to tell your story. Any specific technical skills that you look for? Anything that are kind of a baseline of what you hope somebody comes into your organization with a knowledge base of? And Parijit, we can continue with you.
I'll go with how it's structured for Innovations Lab, right? So we have a few rounds of technical interviews that happen. It looks at the very usual parts of understanding language coding, advanced SQL and stuff like that, right? And then eventually it will move into a domain based on experience and the role. It's not for everybody, but if there are experience role, it's going to have a domain requirement. And then you have a final closure, which is more about understanding the person and the alignment of the person to the culture of the organization. I think that's also very important. I think that's played a key role. And if you ask me, whenever I get a chance, when I do some of these discussions with students, the one thing that I always look for is curiosity. If the person has curiosity, it will work. To me, actually, that's the key, differentiating ingredient, if you would. Because if that's not there, things are changing so fast. What you've learned today is obsolete in 2 years. So you need to make sure you're constantly unlearning and learning yourself. So that becomes a key part for anybody, I would think would be part of an organization.
Sure, great. Jackie, what about you? What do you look for in a technical skill set that's helpful for students going to Amazon? We also had a student question about what are common entry-level positions. So I don't know, maybe after that you want to talk about maybe like the L4, L5, like kind of where students, leveling, where students would fit into kind of in that structure at Amazon too would probably be helpful to touch on.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that we've had a lot of success hiring people out of this particular MS Business Analytics program is because you focus on learning and understanding, ensuring people know how to write SQL queries. And as basic as it sounds, Amazon was not a tech company first. So for me personally, the people that I'm hiring need to be really good problem solvers and need to be able to come in and access the data. And that's how we engineers and analysts, that's how they access the data, by writing queries. So a lot of times when you go through any interview process, regardless of the role, there's going to be a technical assessment. I know for Amazon and a lot of other companies, we're moving more towards some like online assessments. But the other thing we do and what we used to do is an actual phone interview where you're writing code with the person on the call. So one of the things I tell people is when they express interest in a position and they want to move forward, and then I tell them they have the assessment, and then they tell me they need 2 to 4 weeks to prepare for the assessment, that doesn't work for us. So one thing I always tell people is, if this is an area you want to go into, you really need to be like ready. When you start an interview process, you need to actually have thought about being prepared before you get to that point. So you're not waiting weeks and, between the time in the process. The other thing, I think that's kind of the key thing, but then of course, in any kind of analytics focused role, again, the visualization that we talked about earlier, the ability to do it is more important than, and the ability to effectively communicate how you would visualize or how you would build out reporting for something is much more important than like which tool at Amazon, which tool you've worked with. The idea that you have the ability to learn, as someone else mentioned earlier, consistently learning and picking up new tools. There's a lot of different resources that you can utilize to do visualization at Amazon. So that's one part. I think the other thing is kind of combining all of that with your communication skills. So a lot of people who deal with reporting and analytics and data at Amazon are also supporting internal customers that don't have that same level of technical experience. And so the ability to work with someone less technical than you are to explain or figure out what they're looking for, and then come up with a plan to deliver while you're effectively communicating that with them. So it's kind of a combination, but yeah, SQL is kind of the big one. A variety of other tools that go along with that, great, sure, yeah. And Amazon was not a tech company first, so we don't just use one. We're starting to get more into using AWS technologies, but there's still data housed in in-house developed systems that are not easy to access. So, excuse me, I have a little cold. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks. And one thing I had mentioned too about like how the positions at Amazon are structured. So how a student positions in and kind of what do they look for based on experience? Because to your point, there's kind of two arms that the recruiting structure looks at from students for a program like this.
Yeah, so Amazon is a pretty flat organization, but we do have leveling, and traditionally things that are part of the corporate offices, or like somewhere an analyst or an engineer like this would fall, is primarily in levels, as Brian mentioned, level 4, 5, 6, and 7. Level 4 is not entry level. It still requires a couple of years of experience, but that would be the lowest level for the type of roles that I've supported in my time at Amazon, which I've been here for 9 years this month, actually. So done a lot of hiring of people with this background that you all are interested in. And then you go up from there. So at Amazon, like a level 6 role would be considered senior. A level 7 role is considered principal, right? When you get over level 7, it goes to director. I think that some of the university recruiting teams have the opportunity to hire people at that lower level and with maybe 1 to 2 years of experience, but usually at least 1 or 2 years of experience is required for any of these roles. There are very few that are just pure entry level. Yeah.
Sure. Great. Thanks,
and that was the other thing where a lot of the people I hired from this program came in as either level 4 or level 5 business intelligence engineers. And like I was saying, have now been, in fact, I met with some of them recently where they've been promoted in the last couple of years or even a couple different times and moved to different roles. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie. Abe, any technical skills, things that, outside of the some of the communication thing, what are your teams working on at Google in terms of a technical toolkit? What do you look for?
Well, I think you're going to want to know SQL and you're going to know Python. Those are the ones that we use a lot. As far as like these flavors of them, in a big company like Google, we're not going to use the standard flavor that's out there because it's an in-house flavor for just about everything. So it's which personally I prefer if we were able to use the ones that were outside, because there's a lot of great documentation around those, and the internal documentation is good, but not as great as like the free market produces. So it'll, if it would be like, I don't know, whatever, I don't even use any of them, so it's hard for me to even, but what do they call Jupyter or something like that? So it would look like that, but it wouldn't be that. And oftentimes these ones will be built like if Google's they're going to first use them internally, and then they're going to create them within the company, and then it'll be externally used with a different name. But we never get around to using the external one. We just keep using the internal one. So that's why it doesn't really matter that much that this specific tool or whatever. You just have to understand really well how that kind of thing works, that concept around that, and then we'll take you seriously as someone that can do SQL or something like that.
Sure, great. We had a question from one of the guests that said, how is the work culture in the U.S. and U.S. analytics roles teams, especially regarding collaboration and expectations? So, Abe, I know you're a leader of people in this space. Kind of what do you think about regarding collaboration, expectation setting, things like that for analytics teams based here in the U.S.?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that I'm going to answer it a little bit different. So I think that what's exactly being asked, but I think one thing that you're going to have to get really good at when you collaborate with others is that you're going to have to be able to go into rooms of people, and you're going to have to be able to assess very quickly whether this is a room of people that's going to get something done in the next 6 months or not. Because the way it works is that every 6 months or every year, depending on what the cycle is, you're going to have to deliver some serious great stuff that has impact, and so you need to pick where you're going to put your time. And so if you are unable to assess that very well, let's say, then you could spend 6 months and produce nothing, right, or very little, and that's going to be a problem for you, right? And so the other side of this is to be able to put yourself in great rooms with people that produce amazing stuff, and then to be able to be back in that room again. I kind of think of it like, I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I just need to be around really smart people that are driven, and you'll be surprised at how many rooms there are that nothing gets done at all, and those ones you just want to avoid. So that's how I focus my time to make sure we get things done.
Great. Parajit, what about you? How do you feel, collaboration, expectations? I think having innovations lab like you do probably helps set the expectations as you start going out to client sites, correct?
That's true. So I think collaboration is key, because a lot of the shadow learning happens in the initial part. So when you join Innovations Lab as an analyst, you would be working across multiple teams. So I think it's very individualistic, but the person needs to be somebody who's reaching out to the broader ecosystem. It's not necessarily everybody's in the same office. People are dispersed across different parts of the world. So for you to be able to reach out and collaborate and get the sense of what the broader understanding is very important. And that's where, going back to my point of curiosity, it's important, because somebody can give you to do a Tableau dashboard, and you can do that. But for you to go ahead and start understanding the broader ecosystem of why you're building it, what's the real why for it, what's the use case that you need to understand, and you probably will have no clue about it, but you will have SMEs in the team who would know it. So reaching out and getting to know that, it very quickly, the organization finds out who's doing it and who's not. And that differentiates the person from the rest of it. So I think that's a great skill to have for most of the folks to be able to rise the ladder.
Great, thank you. Jackie, anything to add about? I figured they were
No,
in
I
that
actually
space.
think the answers that were really great. Yeah, no, I was nodding, and no, I don't really have anything too unique to add about that.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, it's probably time for one more question if everybody's able to ask. And we've kind of talked about it broadly as we go, but this is a large international perspective, international student population. And so would love to know, like, is there anything or that an international student can do to stand out at companies, especially in a very polarized time politically here in the US, or perceived to be. We will see what the future holds. What can an international student do to stand out? Is it any different than a domestic student? Kind of what are your thoughts there? And maybe Jackie, pretty loaded question, but maybe we can start with you.
I don't know that there's anything unique specific to an international student, but similar to what we talked about before, I think the idea of actually going out and finding some experience and getting something hands-on, and then, sorry, my dog is a little bit excited.
No, you're okay.
Anyway, thinking about the big picture and putting some effort into gaining a little bit of experience, and then also just understanding, anytime someone's going to go try to work in a country that maybe they haven't lived in before, being aware of what you would need or what the process is to get to own some of the process around your work authorization and different things like that. I think that
Sure.
while companies are happy to support you, it's also good for you to actually know what it would take for you to do that. There are a lot of big companies, especially, and probably smaller ones too, that are very happy to support people's work authorization regardless of, where they're from originally. But I think the other thing that is kind of key with Amazon when you're ready to start applying, and again, this could be similar to other large companies, going out and actually applying to positions is the place to start. I get a lot of people reaching out to me and asking me to help them. And the first thing I say is, have you looked at openings and have you applied? Because we've personally, the company I work for is quite large, and there's a lot of people doing hiring, a lot of people that have the opportunity to see that application. I'm only one of hundreds of people. So,
Sure.
Don't just put all your eggs in one basket and expect one recruiter to be the person that does it for you. Doesn't work
Sure.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we've you had mentioned try to find experience. I think part of the program is the analytics lab project that they do over the course of the end of the semester, the last semester. So being able to speak to the work that they're doing with companies, it's very much built into the curriculum, which is an awesome thing to be able to have. Parijit, anything from you about how an international student might be able to stand out, things you might look for? We talked about experience before their program, things like that. Is there anything that resonates?
Well, I don't think we have a differentiation of international versus not, right? I agree with Jackie on that. But I think what's important is, which is a bit understated, and it's a soft skill. Communication is important. Storytelling is important when you're working with data. And that is key for a lot of the success in the interviews I've seen. Either you are a whiz kid and you really know the technology really, really well, right? Otherwise, you would need to make yourself stand out in some areas. And if you have good data storytelling, that helps. That really helps.
Sure.
I would probably say that.
Great. Abe, we have about a minute or so left. Anything to add in terms of standing out from an international student perspective?
Well, one thing I want to say with this is that in U.S. companies, like I work at Google, most people that work there are international, which I think is wonderful because we end up with the smartest people in the world and the best storytellers and exactly the kind of people I want to work with. So that's something to keep in mind, that I think there's a lot of opportunities here, and I hope that always will be that way, where we foster the best. And I imagine that's in other parts of the world too. I've only worked for Google in other parts of the world, and that is exactly how it is. So I don't know how it is with other companies, but I would think it's the same way. So that's something to be excited about. So I think coming to the U.S. for a university is a great opportunity to get yourself ready for these global companies, to learn all the skills that the others have been talking about. And I think University of Minnesota is great for that.
Great. Awesome. Well, I appreciate all of you taking some time today. We are going to have our seed host jump in and has a couple other additional questions that they had through the chat from our guests. And Moyen, I'll turn over to you and get out of everybody's way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. And thank you so much, Abe, Parijit, and Jackie, for such wonderful insights into how can a student go about with a journey in analytics in the United States. One of the interesting questions which has come up from a student, Rohit, on the chat to me, he's saying him working as a data engineer has worked with quite a lot of legacy systems which consume data from different sources such as ERP, non-ERP, etc. Now, when a student has to go about with building a robust, scalable, and a reliable data architecture for, let's say, building their own startup, how can they go about with building such a system so that they can handle a large data volume which is coming in days? And as you have worked with organizations wherein data comes in billions of bytes, if you can add some insights into what the student is asking about. Um,
Yeah, I'll probably take a stab. I think the question probably is, how do I build large scale pipelines, right?
yeah.
And see, in the market from an engineering standpoint, whether you leverage, and I'm sure Abe and Jackie can come in, whether you leverage like Google does, they have structures and pipelines that they build, but whether you work with the likes of Databricks or you work with the like of Snowflake, right? You have structures in which you need to build and scale and run with. What's important before that is also to realize how do you define the architecture of that pipeline. I still remember a CIO discussion where the gentleman had mentioned that, I need to make sure that my entire system is such that I can run analytics on top of it as a walk-in story, right? And for that, he needed a system which is not tribal. It needed to be much more defined and designed in the right way. So I don't think a lot of the organizations still design it well, and that will be needed. I think the question is too broad to have a specific answer on the use case, but I'm sure there are tools in the market today that data engineers are leveraging to run with. For that matter, data engineering is a skill which itself is getting pretty scarce, right? Everybody wants to do data science, but you need more engineers in the market today.
I would, if I were in your position, I was trying to do what you're doing. Well, first, before I caveat that is that at Google, there's a lot of tools that are built for scale that I get to take advantage of that I don't even know how the complexity under the hood. So, so it's scaling, but they're making it easy for me. So it sounds to me like if I interpret the question right, you're kind of, if you're doing a startup, you're kind of starting from scratch, but you want to leverage the tooling that's out there. And so if I were to, if that was something and I was over on that side and I wanted to do a startup, I would just start using the tools that are out there and see what I can do with them. And then as you find that, it's taking you longer than you want, then you probably want to find other people to help to get involved with you that have more expertise to accelerate whatever you're doing. I kind of feel like if I give enough time, I can probably learn just about anything. And I think that everyone on this call actually has that ability, whereas we as humans can do that. We're amazing. But you may not want to take that long to get there. So that's where you bring other people in that would help you with that.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Abe and Parijit. One another question which has come up from a student is that how can one manage and mitigate the compliance related or the risk which are involved when it comes to data which is housed in various warehouses with the increase in the regulations of GDPR or CCPA? How does the entire process work or when it comes to mitigating risk related to data?
See, I think these are great questions, but what I think is interesting about this is that these are all very specific areas you can focus on. So I don't focus on that area. I mean, I'm around compliance. We have to deal with it. And there's people that really know a lot about compliance and they tell me what to do and I follow what they say, right? if you were to ask me a question about anti-fraud, which I probably can't even answer because it's proprietary, but if you were to answer that, I could ask that. I could talk about that for days, right? And so, and that is where my world is, right? And so, so knowing that, I mean, I think these are great questions, but you're going to have to find, if you really want answers to them, you're going to have to find people who know a lot about them. And that is a skill in itself, is that here you found somebody, let's say somewhere on LinkedIn, and you want to reach out to them, and you want to learn more from them about it. And so how do you make that happen? And you know, part of it is maybe you get lucky, but another part of it is how you would show that you are actually a curious person that has spent a lot of time trying to learn that thing, and why you think that their skill may be able to help you understand better what they need to know, by showing them all the work that you've done, what you think they may know about it, and they can help you bridge the gap, and maybe they will reach out to you or respond back to you and be willing to help you.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Abe. Brian, Garth, and Susan, there has been many questions which have been coming up. Once a student starts studying a graduate program at Carlson School of Management, University of Minnesota, how does the university help them in landing internships or job opportunities? If you can throw some light on the career services in particular at Carlson School of Management.
Sure. Well, I probably can take this. So there is not an internship expectation for the program. We actually would recommend you do not try to do an internship during the program. It's a pretty intense program. So we really break down the career exploration and helping students in their kind of exploration and ultimately finding the job they're looking for in a couple parts. So we do a lot of the career exploration and kind of giving you the career development skills to succeed in your first semester and a half. So we might do panels, we might have engagement opportunities, you might have opportunities to network with alumni, things like that, learn from people that do that job that have come from the program, to start laying the groundwork to the point, I think, of our panelists of where do I want to go? What domain do I want to focus on? Where are my strengths? And you can start identifying the paths that are right for you. As you get closer to the end of the program, we have other more direct employment engagement events. We host a corporate reception. We host on-site information sessions or virtual sessions if it's some of our panelists that are joining virtually. We do we help set up for interviewing, things like that. We also do a West Coast trek yearly, either to Seattle or San Francisco. We tour companies, we engage with we engage with alumni and things of that nature. So we try to find those pieces where you can get that experience. And then last semester is a real world analytics project you'll do with a company as part of a team for a full semester. That's an amazing experience that then you can utilize to be able to still tell some great star stories, things like that during your interview process. So we're kind of a partner with you in this throughout the whole process, and so working with our career coaches, working with the business development team to identify companies, identify alumni, and to kind of navigate that network is kind of what we're here to help you do.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Brian. Brian and Garth, there is another question which has come up from Vanya. She is asking, how can a student go about with crafting a compelling application? How important do extracurriculars and co-curricular activities matter before putting up an application for graduate studies? Or if you can just throw some light on this and give further insights.
Yeah, this is a great question. So just briefly, a lot of graduate programs these days, and ours in particular, we do what's called a holistic review process, which means we look at the entire student story, every component of an application simultaneously. So I would say all of that is important, right? The extracurriculars. But I'd say in particular for the MSBA program, we do look at technical experience, technical skills, because we want to ensure that the student will succeed and be able to keep up with the program academically, but then also to sort of go back to what we were talking about in the panel, to set them up for success for when they go out and start to try and find jobs after the program itself. So I would say We look at all of those factors that student mentioned in the question, and no one factor figure is going to determine an admissions outcome for this program. And Susan, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add there.
Sure. Yeah, I think what Garth said is spot on. Things that we look at in particular for the analytics program too are if you're trying to highlight an extracurricular or a project, it's a plus factor if it ties directly to the analytics field, right? Or if something you've been involved in can showcase, oh, I've used technical skills, or I've been exposed to these types of programming languages, or I took a leadership role, right? So if you are involved in activities, that's certainly something that we want to see, but it's even better if those activities have allowed you to practice a particular skill that we're looking for in our students.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Garth and Susan. Abe, Parijit, and Jackie, there's been a question which has come up. A student is asking that they have about 3 to 4 years of experience in either sales or in marketing. So they want to know as to what can be a starting point for them if they want to pursue a career in analytics, if they are to switch from sales to analytics, where can they get started with it?
So I don't see it as a switch. So sales and marketing are a domain. You could put that kind of in the domain category. And then even better, if it's sales of a certain type, that's even a more focused domain in a growing area. And so what you're trying to do there is you're trying to say, you're gonna learn these analytics skills through this program that may have some components with marketing and sales, but also venture into lots of other things. And so what you're looking for is to be able to sell yourself when you graduate, and to get a position in probably going into marketing and sales for analytics. And that would be, you'll look great to these companies if you can sell yourself that way. That's the pairing of the domain and the kind of these technical skills. And you may say to yourself, well, I don't really want to be in marketing or sales for the rest of my life or something. Well, this may be an entry point that you can use to sell yourself. And then when you're in the company, if you're in the right kind of company, you can then explore other areas that are, let's say you want to get out of sales and go into marketing and go into data analytics of some other part of the company or something. You should be able to achieve that by collaborating with other teams that are involved in these types of things and developing your skill set there. That's how I would approach your career, with probably getting the most options at the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. I think what I mentioned. My comment is most of the organizations have practices like sales and commercial, and these are analytics organizations, right? Or marketing analytics itself. So this is not really a switch, but it's an addition. If you know the domain of marketing, you know the lead to code story, you know the value chain over there, you can leverage that, learn analytics skills, and eventually get into marketing analytics. So I think it's a great way to a segue for you to go ahead and get into the analytics world.
All right. Thank you for that, Abe and Parijit. One another question, Brian, Garth, and Susan. I know we are just a couple of minutes on time before the scheduled end of the session, but one interesting question which has come up from a student is, what are the leadership opportunities available on campus at the Carlson School of Management? Are there any startup incubators or any hubs where a student get an opportunity to build their own project and put it out in the market? So yeah.
One thing I'd highlight with this is I feel like leadership is a natural skill that gets developed through our experiential learning that we have in this program. So throughout the program, you're going to be working on projects in teams directly with client companies. And so that inherently, you have to develop those skills in order to really thrive in the program. And as has been mentioned many times by our panelists today, communication is such a key skill. And I think really paired with that is leadership. Can you be a leader within your team? And I think through our classes, through these applied learning opportunities that we have, it really helps our students develop those skills.
Yeah, and I can just add, There definitely are, I don't know if you'd call them incubator, but there are definitely resources on campus that students can utilize. One would be the Holmes Center for Entrepreneurship here at the university, at the Carlson School. They host programming called Minnesota Cup every year, which highlights startups and that have really cool, innovative ideas. And so that's something that you can participate in. There's also another program that's called Walleye Tank that students do as part through some of the different offices. Our Office of Technology Commercialization hosts interns and things as well from other programs, and they focus on Minnesota faculty, staff, students, IP, and things like that, and help develop and go-to-market strategies. So there's definitely, and even just ideation space like the Toaster, which is an innovation hub that's on the east bank of the campus. So there's a lot of resources for entrepreneurship, for those kind of those mindful students. There's definitely the resources there for you to kind of take that idea and run with it.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Brian and Gar. All right. If there are any questions from the students related to admissions or programs about eligibility and scholarships, you can email directly to Garth. The email ID is put up on the chat box. All right. Just one last thing. Yeah. Along with this, we also have exclusive scholarships, which are with University of Minnesota Carlson School of Management. We have 3 awards covering up to $128,000 of your tuition fee. The application deadline for the round 3 of scholarship is on 15th of January. I would be putting up the link for applying to the scholarship on the chat. So if you are looking forward to studying a MSBA program, Business Analytics at the Carlson School of Management, University of Minnesota, then you can go ahead and apply for the scholarships and proceed ahead with your application. Brian, I would like to invite you to provide the closing remarks as well.
What was that? Sorry.
Any closing remarks from your end before we close the session today?
Oh man, no, I think you guys did great. We hope to see students here in the future, and I want to thank our panelists so much for being here today and sharing their insights. And hopefully, some of our guests will see them in recruiting and on-site visits here in the future.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian, Garth, and Susan. It was wonderful hosting you with us. Thank you so much, Abe, Parijit, and Jackie, for being with us on the panel and sharing your experience with all the budding analysts who are looking forward to pursuing a career in business analytics. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Have
all.
a good day.
Thank you.